I hope that it would give them some joy and also a place, kind of like a sanctuary space, when you come home and this is your home and you can look at this painting and just be with it. Just be with.
Hi, listeners, and welcome back to Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner and president of Art Dimensions, a fine art leasing and sales business. Thank you so much for listening in today. I am thrilled to be chatting today with Sahba Shere, an amazing painter who splits her time between Los Angeles and Palo Alto, and who I have had the pleasure of working with for at least 6 years now. Hi, Sahba. Welcome to the Art Dimensions podcast.
Hi, Whitney. What up?
No, how are you? And thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's really a pleasure.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm really excited to chat with you and for all of the listeners out there to learn about your background and your creative process. Let's dive in. You're a painter, but did you always want to be a painter?
That's actually a really good question. I just assumed that I'm an artist from a very young age. It was always part of my identity. I've been asked that several times, and I think I've always had, different answers, different responses to that question. But I do think that I've just always been an artist. It's been part of my identity. I grew up in a very creative, artistic environment. My mother is a poet, painter, and musician. My father was a math professor, writer, published author. And there's a lot of right, left brain going on in the family,
Right.
But I think growing up in that kind of environment, it was just very natural for me to be creative and be an artist. But I am extremely grateful to be doing it for a living.
I love that. You grew up in this creative environment. Do you think creativity is something you're born with or something you're taught?
I think it's both, and I hate to say both, but I really think that there is, from my friendships and acquaintances, there are some people that are just born a certain way. They're so creative, they're so passionate. And I think a lot of creatives are born that way. Having said that, I do believe that it can be taught. I think people, you can tap into these unknown areas. So I think it can be taught. I think for myself, I was born that way. I think of Lady Gaga, but
Right.
I do think a lot of people are born a certain way. I have this amazing friend up in Canada. She's an artist from my school, growing up, and she was just naturally creative. She's just always going to be an artist. So,
But I feel this way? I feel like it's something that needs to be fostered and nurtured. Do you feel that way too?
I do. I do agree. So that's why I was saying it is a bit of both. So I do think that there are people that are just naturally creative. As you know, when I host my artist salons here in Palo Alto, which I can talk about later, I do think it's really important to foster that. There are people that ask, how do you do it? I'd like to be one. I can't draw. I'm like, oh, I think anyone can do that. It's all about practice.
Okay. That's inspiring. It was so nice to hear you say that. What are your favorite materials to work with?
Currently, I work with acrylic, golden acrylics, paints. That is mainly what I work with. I love working with different kinds of paper, Japanese paper, different textures. So I love anything that it has like some vibrancy, texture. In the past, I did some sculpting, pottery. I love getting my hands into things. Yeah, I did
didn't
that.
know that.
I know. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I ever tell you that? So when I lived in Paris for a few years, which was such a gift.
When was that?
That was, gosh, it was over 12, 13 years ago. I lived there for 3.5 years. I was in Paris and I did a lot of my painting, drawing. I also did my documentary photography there. So I did a lot of different things as a creative. I love film photo. I did a lot of film photography. So I loved film. I love the developing. I love the mystery of what was going to appear.
Yeah, and you like to get your hand, it's not, if you're in the dark room, you're really getting your hands in there.
Yeah, and I like that mystery of what's gonna what's going
Appear.
to appear. So I guess it connects it, it lends itself to the painting, what's going to, appear on the canvas or on the paper.
Okay. So so let's talk about your paintings for a minute. For the listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a snapshot of your journey to where you are today and maybe mention a couple of the series that you have for your paintings?
Sure. My journey has been quite interesting and exciting. I would call it my artistic practice has been shaped by adventure, I would say. Just a little bit about me. I was raised in Winnipeg, Canada. I've lived in Cleveland, Atlanta, Minneapolis, Paris, as we've talked about, Bangalore, India, and the Bay Area, Palo Alto, and of course, as you know, Southern California, LA, Laguna has been home for 11 plus years. I have been painting, creating, the entire time and showing my work. A lot of the work, and I think you've seen a lot of the different genres it lends itself to where I've been, where I've traveled to, the meditation, the landscapes, the different cultures I've experienced and all the travels I've done all over the world has really been a great inspiration to my journey and to my work.
Would you say perhaps your paintings are translations of nature, translations of, well, you said your experiences in your travels, but also of nature, because I know you have the ethereal landscape series, you have the ethereal blue series.
Yes.
So that just makes me, think ocean and forest, and you have the green series too.
Absolutely, yes. And directly, I think it's been a direct influence, the nature, the meditation. And I take those landscapes, and internalize them, and then they are expressed onto the canvas and paper. And I think that, all these different regions of the world, especially living abroad, while we lived in France, I was able to travel everywhere, to Africa or to Northern Europe or to other parts. And then you see the greens of Scotland or, in Morocco, that beautiful, the ochres and the browns and the richness. And I would bring that to the canvas. And to kind of answer your question, the current work that I've been doing, it's a combination of, I don't know if it has to do with the pandemic or what, but the dreams and islands and the jungles and my love for the ocean, it's all coming together. And
Mhm.
so the latest genre has definitely been the blues, the ocean, the sky, and the forest. So it's a combination of all those landscapes.
Do you think your practice has been affected by COVID? I mean, you just mentioned that, but tell me how you think it has.
Yeah, I guess it has. I feel like I pandemic hit and then things slowed down for me a little bit. I was a little bit, okay, what do I want? I want to create. What am I creating? I had limited access to my studio for a little while because it's in the city of Palo Alto, and because of the rules, I wasn't able to go there as often. So I think it did affect me. Thank goodness, I didn't, I'm very grateful. We were all healthy, nothing happened. But I do think some of the dreams and thinking, like, I think as things have come to or approaching normal, there's this excitement going on. I had this lightness of being. Yeah, I was having some exciting dreams. I was telling the family, I'm like, no, no, I'm fine. I'm just having some dreams. And the dreams were of travel because I think travel has been part of my entire life,
Yeah,
growing up, living abroad. So I think what was happening was, building
manifesting.
up. Yeah, manifesting. That's the word. So they were manifesting. And I think that that's where it came from. But I do think the pandemic has affected me. I think there's this celebration of life and color again, the rebirth, the renaissance. I think I've used that hashtag. I don't know, things blooming, like my flowers.
Right. And mention your flowerscapes if you would.
Yes, I know you have. Oh gosh, it's been so great working with you with those flowerscapes.
Oh, thank you.
That was yeah, that was a beautiful experiment. I think I remember telling you I was working on this beautiful Japanese paper called Yupo, as some people might know about it. I love doing ethereal flowers or general landscapes, but in an abstract way. This is a little bit more representational. It's like literally a
Yeah,
flower, but it was flowing into an abstract, like the paint started flowing into my drawing. So I would draw out a flower by pencil, and then I would pour the paint inside and just move the paper around. And wow, it just became this beautiful body of work.
it certainly did.
Thank you.
You can see Saba's work at artdimensionsonline.com. In the upper left-hand corner, click on artists and then find her name and her thumbnail and click there. And you can see works from so many of her different series, including the flowerscapes. They're sort of my favorite. I do
Oh,
love those,
thank you. Thank
but
you.
I love it all. Well, describe your aesthetic in 3 words.
Oh dear. 3. Okay. I have like knowing me as you know me, I could come up with so many. Okay, so 3 words. I mean, there's so many, as you know, with my abstractions and representational color. However, if I have to pick 3
Yeah, today.
today would be absorbing, abstract, meditative.
Okay. I'm just thinking of your series Hallucinations.
Yes,
Those are mostly on paper, are they not?
correct. Yes.
Okay. And those are more black and white, sort of minimalist pieces. Are those based on your meditations?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much so. So my practice, my daily practice, and for most of my life is meditation, yoga. I know it's all holistic, it's with nature and the travels I've experienced in Asia and Europe.
Right.
So I think that's what I was translating onto those people. And it was very intimate work and, a little bit smaller, on paper. It was really intimate.
Tell me more about that, the intimacy.
As you know, I do small to very large work, and some are, monochromatic, and some are very vibrant color. That body of work is very meditative for me. It's from my practice meditation. It takes time. You're sitting with it. I'm drawing. I'm kind of creating a composition and applying the layers of the ink and the acrylic and the pencil. And it's quite therapeutic, actually.
Oh, nice.
I think it's intimate because I'm sitting with it. I'm working slowly, whether I have some soft music or not. Sometimes it's very quiet. I think that's why it's very meditative.
Do you meditate every day?
I try to. I would like to say I do. Probably 10 minutes every day on
Oh, that's
average.
fantastic.
Thank you.
And who are some of your greatest influences? This can be other artists, family members, whomever.
Yeah, that is a good question, as is always asked, right? Artists are always asked that, and I have so many influences. I will say that my parents have definitely been the greatest influence. As growing up, from the moment I was born, I was surrounded by art, my mother's art, music. My parents are from India originally. So I would hear Indian classical music playing, the sitar, or her paintings would be up. And my dad, although he's a math professor and engineer, he was a writer, and I would hear him talk about what he's writing and the conversations that would be. They really influenced me. And as you know, the salons that I host at my studio, I dedicate to my father, who, passed away several years ago, because he brought people together. So they were my parents, my mother, who's still living and practices, they're great influences. I do have to add, which is kind of interesting, I'm going to add them right now, which I've never said this before, my brothers and their current influence, their current inspiration, because, one, they're in tech, one Silicon Valley engineer, builds things, and the other's an investment banker, but both are comedians, and they've they stand up, they do comedy, or one of them definitely does in New York. So I have a family of really that right, left, and
Creative people.
love talking to them all the time.
That's so nice. You have two brothers.
I have two brothers, yes, two younger brothers. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest too.
Ah,
I want to know if you ever get painter's block.
I guess the short answer would be yes. I do think that I like to look at it as more as my biorhythms. I really thought about this. I do believe that I get, the block and it can slow me down. Actually, I was just thinking about this a few weeks ago because things have been flowing, things have been great right now. And so I was thinking, oh, did I have this block or was it due to the pandemic? I do think it's a little bit more of my biorhythm, though, at least personally. I think it's a time to recharge, or we slow down, or there are other things going on in our lives.
Hmm.
And it's hard to kind of focus on that flow. I try to accept it. I just accept, oh, it's just not going to happen right now, and I got to take a break, pause. And I do have some techniques for myself or solutions that have worked.
That sounds great.
So you want me to tell you?
Yeah. Tell me a couple of the solutions.
At least some of it is, well, first of all, I try not to worry about it too much, because the more I worry, then,
It'll
oh
feed
dear.
itself.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure it will. And I do think it's important to take a pause and to reflect. And I think it's important to complain about it. To vent. I talk to my fellow artist colleagues or my family or my, like, oh, I just, this is very difficult. I just don't know what to do. I'm just sitting there. However, what I do is it's maybe a little bit more walking and hiking.
Hmm.
Music is a big part of my life anyway, so I just take it easy and listen to the, lyrics more. One thing that has really helped me is I just read more. I start reading more, and I journal more.
I love that idea of pausing. And I'm just remembering that I did sell a painting of yours called Pause, which
Yeah.
I will post. I will post. I'm developing a blog, and that will be on my website soon. And I will post an image of Pause when I post about you. So
Oh,
that's,
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, without a doubt. How does your emotional energy get translated onto the canvas? That's sort of a tricky one, but
What we were talking about, my meditative pieces, like the works on paper, the black and white, the
mhm.
minimalism. So that kind of energy, it's when I'm feeling that, really, like I don't know, very centered and balanced, or I'm thinking about things, that is a natural translation. It's my inner landscape, so to speak. I don't know. There must be a better word for it. But so that goes that in that way. It kind of manifests that way. With other pieces, that emotional energy, there's, the colors and the vibrancy. I think that there's just this higher, or there's this vibration going on. And I am standing with my canvas, or the canvas is laying down on the floor, and I have music on, my favorite music on. I have a very large studio, thankfully, and I can play the music loud, and I can lay out the big canvases.
Nice.
So there's a lot of energy put into
Mhm.
it, like a physical energy is gone into the paintings. I think with the ethereal landscapes and the flowers, that's obviously a more calmer moment.
Yeah, the flowerscapes. Are you talking about the flowerscapes or the flower paintings?
Both. You know how I have those flower scapes, the
Hmm.
the small, like the individual flowers, and
Yes.
then I have the ethereal landscapes, which is a very moody. You kind of feel the landscape in the back, like the fog.
Yeah, there you've got some gray going on and
Right, very moody, but the delicate blooms kind of.
they pop.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, those you can check out on my website too. I think
Yeah,
there's one called Love Blooms from
yeah.
your ethereal landscape series.
No, I've just been really enjoying the process and the journey, as you have been asking. And I've been very grateful to be able to practice and share the work with the community, especially with here in Palo Alto. And I hope to do some salons in LA. and perhaps collaborate with you and do something exciting.
Yeah, I
Because
love it.
the Sahba salons are coming up again. And as you know, I would host these wonderful events at the studio,
Right.
composers or do-gooders, nonprofit writers, journalists from Stanford. I think it's really important to share the space. I get to talk about what I do, but I want to hear what other people are doing. And we, kind of lift ourselves together. So I'm super excited about that. I am working with a Stanford anthropologist. So we got a grant from the city of Palo Alto. Very excited about that.
That
So
is awesome. And what are you using it towards?
it's called body mapping, and we will host a workshop August 28th. It's in motion. It's really about ourselves and how we've handled COVID, perhaps, or the pandemic. We draw out an actual body, your body, you lay down on a big piece of paper, and then you get to color, paint, collage.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
There's a lot more to it, of course, but we're developing that.
And that will be in Palo Alto.
That will be in Palo Alto, but I hope to develop that into some kind of a series. So stay tuned.
Oh, I love that. Oh, great. Okay, we will stay tuned for sure. Those of us in Los Angeles, so exciting. Well, I want to wrap up and I want to ask you, what do you hope people will get from your paintings?
I hope that they get joy from the paintings, first and foremost. I also feel, especially given the pandemic, and we know what art does for people. It's therapeutic. It helps people, gives them joy, or it's a great conversation piece. It can be exciting. All of the above. But first and foremost, I hope that it would give them some joy, and also a place, kind of like a sanctuary space, when you come home and this is your home, and you can look at this painting and just be with it. Just be with,
Yeah,
just in the present
just be.
moment. Yeah. And maybe you discover something new, different times, the lighting at different periods of your life. But that's my hope, that they, and definitely a conversation piece too. I have some collectors that come or they've said that, Sahba, we were standing in front of your painting and we had this long conversation. All of a sudden I saw this. And so,
Oh, okay.
but,
Great.
something light, but obviously something that they can be with.
Yes, and something that entices or provokes conversation and growth and
Yeah,
personal interpretation and personal some pause, taking some pause
exactly.
with each piece.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful to be able to do that. Feels
That's
good.
so great. I love working with you. Thank you so much and so much fun. I'm really glad you decided to be a guest on the podcast. And thank you for giving the listeners a glimpse into your creative world. So for everyone listening out there, be sure again to check out Sahba's gorgeous paintings. Also email me through my website if you have any questions. And Sahba's Instagram handle is
Sahba Shere art.
she's going to check right now.
Isn't that funny?
As
Yeah.
she's checking, you can also follow at Art Dimensions. And is it at Sahba Shere Art?
Yeah, just check out Sahba Shere.
Okay.
It's my first and last name, or it could be Sahba Shere Art. I see both. On the top, I see Sahba Shere Art, and then I see Sahba Shere Artist. I know,
Okay.
look at me. I mean,
Well,
I should
no.
know, right?
Oh, please. I want to spell your name just so everyone knows. It's Sahbashere.
Yes.
So, Sahba and everyone out there listening, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honor.